for target practice, they would buy hollow point ammunition, anti-personnel ammunition, ammunition that is banned by Geneva Convention from being used in a war. So we said, what is this? Why is the government arming against its citizens? Or is it simply trying to mess with the ammunition market? Because the military makes its own ammunition. But Homeland Security and these other federal agencies that are armed to the teeth like a domestic army, they don't make their own ammunition. They buy it on the open market. And yes, it did play havoc with the ammunition market. Was it a trial run? We still don't have any explanation for why they did that, and they started covering up their purchases after we exposed that. But, of course, you had National Review, just like Salon, and other news organizations, quote-unquote, come out and say, hey, this is crazy. This is an Alex Jones conspiracy. No, it's not. No, it's not. Not the missing 28 pages, not the ammunition purchases, and not this story either. They say this is a crazy story that Trump peddled about how there's no California drought. No, that's not what he's saying, and that's not what we said either. And look at that picture if you're looking at the broadcast. They find the two worst pictures they can find, especially of Alex, to make him look as bad as they possibly can. That kind of cartoon portrait there lets you know what this story is about. They say it's a crazy story that Trump peddled about how there's no California drought. You can trace it to an InfoWars conspiracy. Now, when we look at what was actually said by Donald Trump, when he was in California, he said, I would have changed the water. You have a water problem. It's so insane, it's so ridiculous, where they're taking the water and shoving it out to sea. And there's loud cheers, they say. Then he continued, it's not the drought. They have plenty of water. No, they shove it out to sea now. Why? Because they're trying to protect a certain kind of 3-inch fish. And they go, oh, well, that came from that crackpot notion of saving 3-inch fish. That came from InfoWars. But then they say this. The theory that California's water shortage is all the fault of the EPA is, like most conspiracy theories, grounded in an actual fact. Yeah, it is an actual fact, folks. It is an actual fact that the EPA is having California, even during the periods of the worst drought, dump massive amounts of fresh water into the sea for a 3-inch fish. That's a fact, folks. Now, you can draw whatever conclusions you want, but that is a fact. And even Salon has to admit it. They say, well, it's 800,000 acre-feet of water that get flushed in the San Francisco Bay to maintain its marine ecosystem, but that's not really important in the big scheme of things. Well, let's go back to the article, because they didn't quote from the article. They misrepresented the article, but they did link to their article, their source. And this is something from about a year ago, April 20th, 2015. Environmentalists caused California drought to protect this fish. And we show a picture there on that article of the little 3-inch fish. It says, we reported here about the severe drought in California, the worst in decades. It's believed to be partially man-made because of California's extreme environmental regulations that are literally flushing fresh water out to sea. Now, we're not saying that the drought was caused, and that's not what Donald Trump is saying either. He's saying it's stupid what the EPA is doing. It is destructive of the economy. Their regulations are destructive of the economy. And they're pointing this out. So what we did was we quoted and commented on a CNS News Service story, and we gave the references to it. That's what we do here, because we report on things, different things than other news outlets will report on, and we report on them from a different angle. And so we document what our take is on it. We say, we believe this about this particular story, and here's why. So we quoted a CNS News article, and they were quoting a Republican assemblywoman in California, Shannon Grove, who they said for months has been trying to get word out about how the EPA regulations apparently are literally draining water into the sea, all for the sake of a 3-inch fish. Now, why wouldn't Donald Trump say something about the insanity of those kind of EPA regulations? You got people all over California being penalized for washing their cars or for watering their lawns, and yet they are dumping, per the orders of the EPA bureaucracy, telling them to put out 800,000 acre-feet of water, just dump it into the bay, because, you know, it's 3-inch fish, and it's not a problem. And, of course, Salon says, gee, that's just crazy. That's a conspiracy theory. There's no conspiracy about it, folks. It's out in the open. They're not doing this secretly. The EPA's regulations are public. What they're doing in San Francisco is public. the destruction of our economy, that may be a conspiracy if you don't understand what's going on, but it is public, folks, and it is a fact. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're going to tell you what happened in Switzerland. You won't believe this. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight on this Sunday, June 5th, 2016. Today there was a referendum in Switzerland. Headline via Drudge, Swiss reject free income plan after a worker versus robot debate. There's a lot to this story. We're going to unpack this for you. We're going to show you something really bizarre that happened in Switzerland this weekend as well. Before we do, real quickly, the products that we sell at InfoWars are what fund our organization here. We don't run a lot of other sponsors to fund this organization. We sell products that we believe in, products that are going to help you with your health, with your family's health. And of course, one of the things that you need to be concerned about as you try to make your house more energy efficient, as you try to get it airtight in many cases for air conditioning or for heating, you can trap the air in there. It can get very stale. You need to be aware of this. We've talked about this in the past. Dr. Group has talked about the dangers of domestic pollution within your home, within your office. We have something now that can help you with that at an excellent price. Introductory price is 25% off its already low price. Alexa Pure Breeze. It's an energy-efficient HEPA filter with ion cluster air purification. This is very energy efficient. It cycles 120 square feet every 12 minutes. Does an air change per hour. Exceeds allergy and asthma foundation recommendations. It's a very small design. It's only about the size of a large briefcase. So you get one purification unit with an ion cluster technology, one pre-filter, one true HEPA filter, and a carbon-activated filter. That's all for $189.99. That's over 25% off the retail price. Take a look at InfoWarsStore.com. Check that. Check the other products that we have for your health, for your preparedness, and also my favorite supplement. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this at InfoWarsLife.com is Brain Force. Brain Force is absolutely my favorite supplement that I take. You know, most of the supplements that I take, I do them because I do the research. I read the reviews on our site. I see what people have to say. I see what doctors and health experts say in terms of vitamins and supplements that I believe that I need. But when it comes to something like Brain Force, unlike many of these supplements, I don't feel something if I take a multivitamin, right? I just look at it and I take it based on what's in that multivitamin. With the Brain Force, it really does help to focus me. As I said before, if I was going to name the product, I would have called it Brain Focus. My favorite supplement. It is now in stock. Get it while supplies last at InfoWarsLife.com. Thank you for supporting us. And look at the other products that we have on site. Right now, as I point out, our biggest sale is the 25% off the new product we have, the large air filter supply there, Alexa Pure Filter. Okay, today, Drudge had up a story about what happened in Switzerland. They have basically rejected Bernienomics, or you could call it free lunch socialism. Or you could call it Hillary's socialism. You know, Hillary says that she's on with all the free lunch stuff that Bernie Sanders wants to do, but she kind of gives a wink and a nod to Wall Street because they know, nah, she's really not. She's going to be our crony capitalist there. But she would enact a lot of that stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit here in just a moment about the true cost of free college tuition and open borders when you start to combine just those two factors. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But take a look at what Switzerland did. They were presented with the idea they were going to provide as a guarantee, anybody that is 18 years or older would get a guaranteed income of $2,500 per month. Now, what does that work out to? That's about $31,000 a year, U.S. Or if you want to break it down to an hourly wage, okay, of course, they wouldn't be working, okay, necessarily, regardless of how much they work. But if you assume that they were going to have a 40-hour work week, assuming they were working, they would get $16 an hour. So that's even better than the Bernienomics, where they want to give people a $15 an hour minimum wage. So this is a pretty generous stipend that they wanted to give everybody. How did they justify this, the people who put this on the ballot? And, of course, Switzerland has a pretty open referendum system, so it's pretty easy for people to bring things up for a vote. It was soundly rejected. It was rejected by 75, 80% of the people there. But, I'm sorry, it was 85%. Let's see. Well, I'm not sure exactly. They don't have the total here. He said he reckoned that he would get 15%. Looks like it's now going to be 20% or maybe even 25%. So the article, this happened today, so I don't have the exact amount. But basically, it was soundly rejected, okay? They rejected EU membership by about 75%. Switzerland is not in the European Union. You understand that? They didn't throw away the Swiss franc for the EU either. They're not fools. And so they didn't buy this free lunch socialism. But why was it being sold to them? That's what I think is interesting. It was being sold to them because they said, well, you know, the robots are going to take our jobs. We're not going to have any jobs. What are we going to do? So they're selling this to them already as this kind of reservation. That's what we did to the Indians in this country. We said, you know, you had this lifestyle where you sustained yourself, you were hunters, gatherers, or whatever you were doing. We're not going to let you do that anymore. We're going to confine you into a very small area. We're not going to let you do any of the things that you did before to make a living. We are going to shut down any kind of business efforts that you want on the Indian reservation. We're going to control that very tightly. But don't worry, we're going to give you free health care. We're going to give you a stipend. We're going to give you welfare. We're going to contain you. That reservation system that our government has been doing to the Indians for over 100 years, that is what they're now bringing to us with sustainable development. It's the UN agenda for sustainability. And we look at this article from Reuters, they even put down here, sustainable solution, quote unquote. They say champions of the plan portrayed a more automated future and a poster that was bigger than a soccer field. And they asked, what would you do if your income was secure? They also had marched robots down the streets of Zurich and handed out free 10 franc notes. There you go. Don't worry, the robots are coming. The robots are going to take your job, but don't worry, they're going to hand you out money. You really think so? You really think so? As we've said many times, when you look at what's on the horizon, if we don't get control of AI, of automation, of this UN Agenda 21, it's an agenda that comes from the UN. They called it Agenda 21. It was the agenda for the 21st century. Now the new name, they've renamed it because they've got a more specific time frame. At first, it was Agenda 21. Sometime in the 21st century, we're going to do it. Now, it's the 2030 UN Agenda for Sustainable Development. So when these people say, is this a sustainable solution? Yeah, that's right. They think it is. They're going to put you in a welfare state. They're going to put you in a reservation where you can't do anything, where you become completely dependent upon them, and even more passive because they're going to have the robots hand you the money. You're not going to have a job. You're not going to have possibility to do anything else. And when I look at this, I look at Switzerland having the good sense to reject this, but surprisingly, it wasn't 100% rejection, as you would think. You still have situations as Swiss have maintained their independence from the EU. And I thought, you know, what does it take to become a Swiss citizen? You know, because we have Hillary lecturing us on how we need to open up our borders and Barack Obama and everything. Are the Swiss open? No, they're not. They don't have open borders. Listen to what it takes to become a Swiss citizen. Children born in Switzerland from non-Swiss parents do not automatically become Swiss. They don't have anchor babies in Switzerland. And you know what? We don't have them in our Constitution either. We need to call that bluff, and that's something that Donald Trump did early on. We need to call the bluff of anchor babyism, okay, if you want to call it that way. But anyway, they say to become a naturalized citizen, you need to have resided in Switzerland for at least 12 years, 3 of which occurred within the previous 5 years prior to your request for citizenship. And you have to provide them with references. You have to go before local boards, okay? You have to go to the municipality where you reside. Then from there, it'll be sent to another municipality. And what they're going to do is they're going to look to see if you've been integrated into the Swiss community. Are you accustomed to the Swiss way of life, to Swiss practices? Do you comply with the Swiss legal system? Now, that would be a big no if you marched across the border and started demanding that people take care of you. I think they would say, no, I don't think that they understand the Swiss and comply with the Swiss legal system. And you have to be in no way compromising the internal or external security of Switzerland, okay? And there's a story from a Swiss publication, The Local, where they talk about how an expat was denied Swiss citizenship after 39 years. This guy is an American. He's from California, interestingly enough. He's lived in Switzerland since 1975. He taught at a university. And then when he retired, they said he applied for citizenship, and they said, no, we don't think you know enough about the region. We don't think you're integrated enough into the region. And when we come back, we're going to tell you the really weird stuff in Switzerland. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host. We were just talking in the last segment about the wisdom of the Swiss in terms of rejecting Bernie economics and Hillary socialism, saying we're not going to guarantee $31,000 a year for every citizen